When Puerto Rico came under American sovereignty, it didn't enter a vacuum. It entered a nation with systems, schools, laws, calendars, forms, expectations. And like any nation expanding its reach, some things were standardized. Some were adjusted. Some even were assumed to be replaceable. This episode isn't about rebellion. And it isn't against anybody. It's about what happens when local culture meets national systems. And some of the things that refuse to dissolve. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Chronicles and Cocktails. I'm Josue, the spirited historian. And today, we are going to be talking about those things that we refuse to let go, that they are part of our culture and our identity. So, get comfortable, go get some ice, because we're gonna be making a very simple but historical cocktail. One that also stayed, regardless of everything that happened to it and against it. And it's still happening today. So, go get some coconut water. And if you have a tío or a primo or a good friend, ask him for the good rum, because that's what we're going to be making today. So, let's dive in. But before we continue, I want to take a brief moment here. These two books aren't merch. I wrote these two books. One is about poetry. Garabatos, Mi Ruta Hacia Ti, my first published poetry book. And it tells a story, of course, but in poetry form. It's made up of poems written during perpetual and sporadic moments of my life. They don't explain history itself, but they explain a little bit about me. It's in Amazon, and the link is in the description below. But if you want history, the good history, this is Historia en la Historia de Utuado. It's something different. It's serious historical research, grounded in real archives, and it's born out of my curiosity of knowing more. Everything I do, it's because I want to learn a little bit more. All these episodes, all the books, all the papers of research that I've made, it's because I have questions. And if I don't find them, if nobody can explain them to me, then I'll look for them. Even if it takes me 5 years to find them out. So, Historias en la Historia de Utuado and Garabatos. One of those things was our language. You see, language isn't just communication. It's how a nation educates, governs, and imagines itself. In the early decades of American administration in Puerto Rico, from 1898 to the 1920s, especially with the Jones Act, the Forker Act, English was pushed in our school system. Teachers were just teaching in English. And Spanish was thought to be a language of the house. Wasn't meant to be spoken in public. The assumption was simple. America thought that English would be a unifying language, one that would modernize and integrate. Spanish wasn't banned, it was just downgraded. Something that you would do in private. But you see, language doesn't move by decree alone. Spanish remained the language of family, religious life, local politics, even newspapers and humor. Over time, yes, English became a tool, but Spanish remained the foundation. The result wasn't separation. It was bilingualism shaped locally, not imposed uniformly. Puerto Rico didn't reject English. Who would reject learning more languages, right? But it did refuse replacement. Spanish had been with us for 400 years. It was the language of our Spanish ancestors, the one that we had been speaking for centuries. So it meant a connection, not only with our culture and our present at the time, but with our past. We respected history. This one I talked about earlier this year. I think it was at the beginning of the year, the Three Kings Day. And yes, Three Kings Day was not celebrated by the Americans when they arrived, but it was celebrated for centuries by Puerto Rico because of our Spanish ancestry. It was at some point the main holiday of the Christmas season, which that's another episode. We talked about the longest Christmas season, but we explained why we have the longest Christmas season. When the Americans arrived in 1898 and they took over the administration of the island, Three Kings Day was not a day that they favored or celebrated. You see, Puerto Rico was and is mostly Catholic. I mean, that's 400 years of history. And the American calendar centers on December 25th. El Día de Reyes is in folklore. It's theology, it's family structure, and it's childhood memory. And that matters. It really does. It shows the difference between what a system recognizes and what people actually live. When January 6th returned to our calendars as an official holiday, it was alignment. The state acknowledging what had always been there. Very nice. Now, this is a sensitive subject, but it's a necessary subject, and it's part of our history, as it had been for centuries. Some traditions clash with modern national standards. Cockfighting is one of them. For generations, it existed here as a regular activity, licensed, taxed, and openly practiced. It wasn't informal, it was institutional. When federal animal welfare laws were expanded to apply uniformly across all American jurisdictions, Puerto Rico was included. Local legality stopped mattering. This wasn't cultural debate, it was a jurisdiction one. A national standard overrode a local institution. Whether one agrees or not, that isn't the historical point. The point is that integration sometimes means erasure, not adaptation. And when that happens, culture doesn't disappear. It fractures, quietly resists, or survives in memory. Here's where things get interesting. Despite a century under American governance, Puerto Rico has never adopted a full common system. Private law equals inheritance, property, family relations, all that remained civil law based. This means everyday life here still operates through a legal logic inherited from Spanish tradition. Written codes, notarial activity, structure family law. Public law aligns nationally. Private life remains locally coded. That's not resistance, that's legal continuity. The nation adjusted, but not everything was flattened. All right, here's one that it's very interesting, and it gave me a lot of problems when I was living in Louisiana. Why do we use two last names? That's right. Puerto Ricans and a lot of the people from Hispanic America uses two last names, and they have an order also. See, we use the father's last name first and the mother's last name second. And this reflects lineage, not aesthetics. Forms compress identity, and databases simplify history. People didn't abandon it. Even when we move to another state, most of us hyphenate it or use both last names. It's just the way it is. And that matters for memory, history, genealogy, for knowing where you came from. Identity here didn't need protection. It needed patience. Integration doesn't always mean absorption. Sometimes it means coexistence. Systems layered over history, not replacing it. What stayed wasn't accidental. It stayed because people kept living it, and we still do. And that may be the most American story of all. And just like that, we reached the end of the episode. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. So thank you for watching. Have a great Sunday. Remember today, if you're watching on Wednesday, if you're watching today, Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. So go to church, get smart, have fun. Salud.